step away from the vehicle. Drop the hose. Now.
I'm washing my car. This is my driveway.
We got a call. Turn around. Hands behind your back.
Check the registration. Look at the bucket.
I'm not asking again.
You're making a serious mistake.
Officer Derek Sloan had been with the Oak Creek Police Department for 12 years when he made a choice that would dismantle his life and bankrupt the city. He was 36 years old, patrolling a quiet, affluent suburb on a Saturday afternoon, convinced that the black man detailing a vintage Shelby Mustang in the driveway of a 4-bedroom colonial couldn't possibly own the car or the house attached to it. One sunny Saturday in October, a neighbor peering through her blinds called 911 claiming to see a suspicious individual stripping parts off a vehicle. A claim that ignored the fact that the man was using a soapy sponge, a bucket of water, and premium car wax. The man was Gunnery Sergeant Marcus Holloway, a 20-year Marine Corps veteran on leave preparing his prized car for a Sunday show. Despite Holloway standing in his own driveway wearing a Marine Corps t-shirt with his wife and son watching from the kitchen window, Sloan pulled his weapon and arrested him next to his bucket of suds. The decision would cost the city $8.2 million, end Sloan's career, and prove that even serving your country for 2 decades isn't enough protection when you are black in suburbia. Before we continue, where are you watching from? If this is your first time here, please hit that subscribe button. Stories like these need to be shared, and your support helps us bring more truth to light. The Oak Creek Estates is a sprawling development of manicured lawns, brick facades, and 3-car garages located 40 minutes outside of Atlanta. It is a neighborhood of peace and quiet. Security patrols neighborhood watch apps silent streets after 9 p.m. Home values average $850,000. It is home to surgeons, corporate attorneys, airline pilots, and military officers who have climbed the ranks. It was 2:30 p.m. on a Saturday. The sun was high and bright. Lawns were being mowed, kids were riding bikes, grills were being fired up for evening cookouts. The neighborhood was secure, idyllic routine. Gunnery Sergeant Marcus Holloway had been with the United States Marine Corps for 20 years. 2 decades of service that required iron discipline, unbreakable mental fortitude, and a willingness to sacrifice everything for the man next to him. 4 combat tours in Iraq, 3 in Afghanistan. He had led platoons through urban warfare, coordinated logistics for battalion-sized movements, and trained hundreds of young recruits at Parris Island. He held a Bronze Star with valor for pulling 2 wounded Marines out of a burning Humvee under enemy fire in Fallujah. His commanding officers described him as the backbone of the Corps. His subordinates called him the Rock. At 42 years old, Marcus Holloway was the epitome of an American patriot respected by everyone who saw his uniform. But that Saturday, he wasn't wearing his dress blues. He was wearing a faded gray t-shirt with USMC printed in black letters, cargo shorts, and flip-flops. He had purchased the home in Oak Creek 3 years ago, finally giving his wife Sarah and their 15-year-old son Malik a permanent base after years of moving from station to station. He worked double shifts, saved combat pay, and invested carefully to afford the down payment. The house was his sanctuary. The 1967 Shelby GT500 in the driveway was his therapy. He had spent 5 years restoring it bolt by bolt, sourcing original parts, tuning the engine until it purred like a jungle cat. That afternoon, he was just washing off the week's dust. He had his music playing low on a portable speaker, Motown Classics. He had a bucket of soapy water and a microfiber mitt. He was humming along to the Temptations, carefully wiping down the chrome bumper. Just another Saturday. Just another father taking care of what he worked for. But someone 3 houses down was watching, and they didn't see a neighbor. They saw a threat. Brenda Vance was 62 years old. She had lived in Oak Creek for 20 years, long before the neighborhood diversified. She spent her days monitoring the neighborhood Facebook group posting about unfamiliar cars and youths loitering. She viewed herself as the guardian of the community's property values. Really, she was a gatekeeper driven by a bias she refused to acknowledge. That afternoon, Brenda was looking out her kitchen window when she saw Holloway. She saw a black man, muscular tattooed arms, leaning over a classic car, She didn't see the sponge. She didn't see the care he was taking. In her mind, he didn't look like the type of person who owned a classic Shelby. She had seen Holloway before mowing the lawn, but she had assumed he was the hired help. Now, seeing him tampering with the car, her mind connected dots that didn't exist. He's stripping it, she thought. He's taking parts, or maybe he's trying to hotwire it. She didn't walk over to say hello. She didn't check the neighborhood directory. She picked up her phone and dialed 911. 911, what is your emergency? I need police at 405 Maple Drive immediately. There is a man stripping a car in the driveway. Stripping a car, ma'am? Is he using tools? He's leaning over it, messing with the wheels and the hood. It's a very expensive car. He doesn't live there. He looks rough. He's wearing ragged clothes. The dispatcher asked the standard questions. Do you see a tow truck? Are there other vehicles? No, he's on foot. He's a black male, large build, maybe late 30s. I think he's trying to steal parts before the owners get home. Please hurry. Ma'am, does he have any weapons? I don't know, but he looks like he could be dangerous. He's very big. The call was logged and dispatched. Suspicious person. Possible grand theft auto or vandalism in progress. 405 Maple Drive. Black male subject tampering with a high-value vehicle. Officer Derek Sloan was 2 miles away, parked in a school lot, finishing a coffee. Do you think dispatchers should be trained to ask more probing questions to filter out racially biased calls before sending armed officers? Drop your answer below. Officer Derek Sloan had been with the Oak Creek Police Department for 12 years. In that time, he had compiled a personnel file that painted a disturbing picture. 22 complaints. 18 of them involved stops or aggressive questioning of minority residents in the upscale sectors of the city. A Hispanic architect measuring a lot for a client. Sloan handcuffed him for trespassing until the homeowner arrived. A black teenager jogging with headphones. Sloan drew his taser because the boy didn't hear a command to stop. An Asian real estate agent showing a home. Sloan blocked her car and demanding to see her license. Sloan had a world view. He believed that order was fragile and that his job was to spot the outliers. He viewed the wealthy neighborhoods as his personal territory to defend. His supervisors knew he was aggressive. They called him proactive. They noted that he made high numbers of stops. The complaints were dismissed as misunderstandings or citizens ungrateful for protection. In 12 years, he had never been suspended. When Sloan heard the dispatch about the car stripper on Maple Drive, his adrenaline spiked. Grand theft auto. A felony in progress. This was a chance to make a real bust. He threw his cruiser into gear lights, flashing siren silent to approach stealthily. He arrived at the house at 2:38 p.m. He parked the cruiser at an angle blocking the driveway. He stepped out, hand immediately resting on his holster. He saw the Shelby GT500, a beautiful machine gleaming in the sun. He saw the man standing next to it, black male, muscular, wearing cargo shorts. Holloway was holding a hose nozzle in one hand and a sponge in the other. He was rinsing the soap off the driver's side door. To a rational observer, this was a man washing a car. To Officer Sloan, who had already decided based on the dispatch that a crime was occurring, this was a suspect caught in the act. The sponge was a distraction. The hose was a prop. Holloway turned off the water as the cruiser screeched to a halt. He looked up, shielding his eyes from the sun. He wasn't alarmed initially. He assumed the officer was looking for someone else or maybe admiring the car. He smiled, ready to wave. Then he saw Sloan's hand on the gun. "Step away from the vehicle now," Sloan barked, closing the distance rapidly. Holloway frowned, confused. "Officer, can I help you?" I said, "Step away. Drop the hose hands where I can see them." Holloway dropped the hose. It clattered on the wet driveway. He raised his hands, slowly, palms open. The military training kicked in. Calm, compliance, assess the threat. "What is the problem, officer?" Holloway asked, his voice steady, the voice of a man used to giving orders, not panicking under pressure. "We got a report of a suspect stripping this vehicle. You are under arrest." "Stripping it, I'm washing it. This is my car. I live here." "Turn around, hands behind your back." Sloan didn't hear the explanation. He only heard defiance. "Officer, look at this bucket. Look at the wax. I have the keys in my pocket. My name is Marcus Holloway. I am a gunnery sergeant in the Marine Corps. My wallet is on the front seat. I don't care who you say you are. Anyone can buy a t-shirt. Turn around or I will taser you. This is where the psychological break occurs. Sloan had responded to a call about a criminal. He saw a black man. Therefore, the man was the criminal. The evidence of the car wash, the suds, the bucket, the hose was filtered out by his bias. He couldn't reconcile the image of this man owning this $150,000 car. Should police departments use virtual reality simulations to test officers for implicit bias before allowing them on patrol? Let me know what you think. I am complying, Holloway stated loudly, ensuring the neighbor's Ring doorbell camera across the street would pick up audio. I am standing in my own driveway. I am asking you to verify my registration before you put hands on me. I'm not asking again. Sloan rushed forward, grabbing Holloway's wrist and twisting it violently behind his back. Holloway winced, but didn't fight. He knew that any resistance, even a flinch, would be used to justify lethal force. He had survived snipers in Ramadi. He wasn't going to die in his driveway because of a panic-stricken cop. You are making a mistake, Holloway said through gritted teeth as the handcuffs ratcheted tight. Check the registration. Check the mailbox. Shut up. You're under arrest for grand theft auto and resisting arrest. Resisting, I haven't moved my feet. You failed to comply with verbal commands immediately. Sloan kicked Holloway's legs apart, forcing him to spread his stance wide, pushing his face toward the wet trunk of the Mustang. Inside the house, Sarah Holloway heard the shouting. She was in the kitchen making lunch. She looked out the window and screamed. She saw her husband, the man who folded his socks with military precision, the man who cried when their son was born, being manhandled against his own car. Marcus! She ran to the back door. Malik, their son, was right behind her. Stay inside, Malik, Sarah yelled, but the boy ran out. Dad! Malik shouted, running toward the driveway. Holloway's head snapped up. This was the dangerous moment. Malik, stop, stay on the porch, do not come closer. Sloan spun around, hand going to his taser. Back off, get back. That is my son. Holloway roared, his calm facade cracking for the first time. Do not point that weapon at him, Sarah, keep him back. Sarah grabbed Malik by the shirt, pulling him onto the front steps. She was trembling, terrified. Officer, that is my husband. We live here. What are you doing? Ma'am, step back, or you will be arrested for obstruction. Sloan yelled, sweat beading on his forehead. He felt surrounded. He felt like the hero in a movie surrounded by enemies. He didn't see a family. He saw accomplices. He is washing his car. Sarah screamed, tears streaming down her face. Look at the soap. Are you blind? Sloan ignored her. He shoved Holloway toward the patrol car. You can tell it to the judge. Neighbors were coming out now. Mr. Henderson from across the street, a retired lawyer. Mrs. Gable from next door. They stood on their lawns, phones out. Hey! Mr. Henderson shouted. That's Marcus. He's lived here for 3 years. What the hell are you doing? Sloan panicked. The narrative was slipping. Back away, this is an active crime scene. Crime scene, Henderson yelled back. He's waxing a Mustang, check his ID, you idiot. Sloan slammed the door of the cruiser on Holloway. He got in the front seat, heart pounding. He told himself he was right. They were all lying. They were all tricked. He had caught a master thief. He drove away, leaving a weeping wife and a traumatized teenage boy standing in the driveway next to a bucket of dying suds. Why do some officers double down when evidence contradicts their assumptions? Comment your thoughts. The drive to the precinct took 15 minutes. Holloway sat in the back, the hard plastic seat pressing against his handcuffs. He closed his eyes and practiced his breathing. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 4. He had to stay calm. Anger would only give them ammunition. He thought about his career. The oath he took to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. He thought about the irony. He had dodged IEDs in Kandahar only to be handcuffed in Oak Creek for the crime of hygiene. They arrived at the station. Sloan pulled Holloway out, parading him past the front desk. What do you have, Sloan? The desk sergeant, a grizzled veteran named Miller, looked up. Grand theft auto. Caught him stripping a Shelby GT500 on Maple Drive. Resisted arrest. Neighbors tried to interfere. Sergeant Miller looked at Holloway. He saw the USMC t-shirt. He saw the high and tight haircut. He saw the calm, burning intensity in Holloway's eyes. "Stripping a car?" Miller asked slowly. "In broad daylight. He had tools. He was tampering with the vehicle. I had a sponge," Holloway said, his voice cutting through the noise of the booking room. "I was washing my car. My name is Gunnery Sergeant Marcus Holloway. My military ID is in my back pocket. My wallet is on the front seat of the car this officer left unlocked in my driveway." Miller stood up. "Sloan, did you run the plates?" I didn't have time. The situation was volatile. I had to secure the suspect." "You didn't run the plates?" Miller's voice rose an octave. "You arrested a man for GTA and you didn't check who owns the car. The caller said he didn't live there. I don't give a damn what the caller said. Did you verify?" Miller walked around the desk. "Turn around, son." He reached into Holloway's back pocket. He pulled out the wallet. He opened it. Driver's license, Marcus Holloway. Address 405 Maple Drive. Military ID, Gunnery Sergeant USMC. Active duty. Miller looked at the ID. Then he looked at Sloan. The silence in the room was heavy, suffocating. "Sloan," Miller whispered, but it sounded like a scream. "You arrested a gunnery sergeant in his own driveway. You arrested a homeowner for washing his own car." "Tut here." He resisted. He refused to comply. "I complied with every order," Holloway said, cold as ice. "There is Ring doorbell footage from across the street. There are 5 witnesses. My wife and son watched you point a taser at them." Miller closed his eyes for a second, rubbing his temples. He knew exactly what this was. He unlocked the handcuffs himself. "Sergeant Holloway, I cannot express how sorry I am." Holloway rubbed his wrists. Deep red grooves marked where the metal had bitten into his skin. "I want to speak to the watch commander. I want a copy of the incident report. I want the body cam footage preserved immediately. And I want to know why this man is still wearing a badge and a gun in my presence." Captain Reynolds arrived 10 minutes later. He was a no-nonsense commander who had been trying to clean up the department's image. When he heard the details, his face went pale. "You're telling me," Reynolds said to Sloan, who was now standing in the corner looking small and defenseless, "that you responded to a suspicious person. Call found a man washing a car with a hose and bucket, and your first instinct was to arrest him for felony theft, without checking the registration." "He fit the description," Sloan muttered. "The description was black man. That is not a description of a criminal. That is a description of a human being." Reynolds slammed his hand on the desk. "Badge, gun, now." "Captain, I was following protocol." "There is no protocol in the known universe that says you arrest a man for car washing. You violated his Fourth Amendment rights. You endangered his family. You have humiliated this department." Sloan handed over his badge. His hands were shaking. For the first time, the bubble of his bias popped and the cold reality of his actions rushed in. Should officers face automatic termination for arrests made without probable cause that violate civil rights? Drop your answer. Within 6 hours, the video was everywhere. Mr. Henderson's son had uploaded the cell phone footage to TikTok. It was captioned, "My neighbor, a Marine hero, arrested for washing his Mustang while black." The footage was damning. It showed Holloway calm, hands up. It showed the bucket. It showed the hose. It showed Sloan screaming, escalating, terrified of a man who was standing still. It showed the heartbreaking moment Malik ran out and Sloan reached for his taser. The internet exploded. He served his country, and this is how he gets treated. That cop wasn't policing, he was hunting. Fire him, charge him, sue the city. The Marine Corps Times picked up the story. Then CNN. Then the nightly news. The optics were catastrophic. A highly decorated black service member, a classic American car, a suburban driveway, and a cop who couldn't see past skin color. Holloway hired a civil rights attorney, a shark named Eleanor Vance, no relation to the neighbor. The lawsuit filed was a masterclass in legal destruction, false arrest and imprisonment, assault and battery, violation of civil rights under Section 1983, intentional infliction of emotional distress, negligent hiring and retention citing Sloan's 22 previous complaints. The discovery phase was brutal for the city. It revealed that Brenda Vance, the neighbor, had called the police 47 times in 3 years on suspicious people, all of them delivery drivers, contractors, or residents of color. The police knew she was a nuisance caller but continued to treat her tips as credible. It revealed that Officer Sloan had been flagged by an early warning system 3 years ago, but his sergeant had overridden the flag, citing his high productivity. It revealed that the department had no training on racial profiling in 5 years. The evidence was overwhelming. The city attorneys didn't even try to argue. They settled in 9 months. $8.2 million. It was the largest settlement in the county's history. Officer Derek Sloan was fired 2 weeks after the incident. But it didn't end there. The district attorney, under immense public pressure, pressed charges: official oppression and assault. Sloan pleaded guilty to avoid jail time. He received 3 years of probation and surrendered his law enforcement certification permanently. He would never carry a badge again. He ended up working in a warehouse, loading trucks, answering to a supervisor who was half his age and black. Brenda Vance, the neighbor, was publicly identified. The homeowners association sued her for harassment. She was pariah-ed. Her friendly neighbors stopped waving. Someone spray-painted "racist" on her driveway. She sold her house 6 months later and moved to a gated community in Florida, blaming the media for ruining her life, never accepting her role in the trauma she caused. But money and firings don't fix the damage. Gunnery Sergeant Holloway stood before the city council 6 months later. He was dressed in his full dress blues medals gleaming on his chest, the stripes of his rank commanding respect. The room was silent. "I have served this country for 20 years. Holloway began, his voice deep and resonating. "I have missed birthdays, anniversaries, and first steps. I have lost friends in deserts thousands of miles away. I did it because I believed in the ideals of this nation: freedom, liberty, justice." He paused, looking directly at the police chief. "But when I came home to the house I bought with my own sweat to the driveway where I teach my son how to fix an engine, none of those medals mattered. My rank didn't matter. My service didn't matter. To Officer Sloan and to my neighbor, I was just a suspect. I was a threat. I was guilty of existing in a space they felt I didn't belong in." He took a breath. "My son Malik wants to be an engineer. He used to look up to police officers. Now he flinches when he sees a cruiser. He asked me, 'Dad, if they can do that to you, what will they do to me?'" Holloway let that question hang in the air. The council members shifted uncomfortably. "I couldn't answer him, because I don't know. I can protect him from foreign enemies. I can protect him from bad grades. But I cannot protect him from a man with a badge and a bias who sees his skin as a weapon. The settlement is not justice. Justice would be me finishing my car wash in peace. Justice would be my son not having nightmares about his father being tased. Justice would be a system that filters out officers like Sloan before they are given the power of life and death. You paid me $8 million. I would give every cent back if I could erase the look of fear on my wife's face that day. But I can't. So I will use that money to fight you, to fund legal defense for those who don't have my rank or my resources. Because if this can happen to a gunnery sergeant in Oak Creek, God help the young man in the inner city who has no one to vouch for him." Chaima. Should cities be required to carry liability insurance for officers so that settlements come from police budgets rather than taxpayer funds? Drop your answer. This wasn't just a wrongful arrest. This was a revelation of the fragility of black success in America. Marcus Holloway did everything right. He served, he worked, he bought the house, he mowed the lawn, he restored the classic car. He followed the rules of the American dream to the letter. But the rules changed the moment a biased observer decided he didn't fit the picture. Officer Sloan's career is over. That is necessary. The city paid millions. That is a penalty. But the lesson remains unlearned by too many. The lesson is that authority without humility is tyranny. The lesson is that bias is a blinder that turns protectors into predators. The lesson is that when we allow fear to override facts, we dismantle the very liberty we claim to value. Marcus Holloway still lives in that house. He still drives that Mustang. But now when he washes it, he keeps his ID on a lanyard around his neck. He keeps his phone recording. He doesn't listen to music anymore. He listens for sirens. The peace is gone. The sanctuary was breached. If we don't demand a policing system that values verification over assumption, that values de-escalation over dominance, then we are all just one phone call away from being face down in our own driveways. Comment if you believe this should be law. Any 911 caller who knowingly makes a false report based on race should face criminal charges, not just fines. And if you think these stories need to be told, hit that subscribe button. We're going to keep exposing the rot. We're going to keep demanding dignity. We're going to keep fighting for the day when a man can wash his car in the sun without fearing the shadow of the state. This isn't just about one sergeant, one car, or one cop. It's about the promise of America and who is allowed to keep it.